Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I am just Shani, and today we're going to be watching TikTok scary stories. Let's just dive in. Let's do this thing.
Okay, so I have a couple stories, but there's one main one that I will never forget. It will always freak me out. And it happened in my house when I was in high school. So I'll share the first story that led up to this main event, and then I'll talk about what really happened. So basically, I was in the 6th grade and I was having a sleepover with my friend, and I had no idea what a Ouija board was. No one's ever told me. This was early 2000s at this point. And, I just wasn't educated on it. And so, of course, me being a 6th grader, thinking it was a board game, I'm like, yay, board game. Like, let's try something new. And so we were playing it. Nothing was really going on. Like, we were asking some silly questions like, oh, who am I going to marry when I'm older? And it wasn't really saying a whole lot. But looking back on it, something that kind of freaks me out is when we asked who we were talking to, it went to a Z. And I'm not going to talk any further on that. If you know, you know. And so we went upstairs to go get some, water, some snacks, stuff like that. My parents asked me, what are you guys doing downstairs? And we say, we're playing the Ouija board. And my parents are like, nope, absolutely not. You are not playing that. Please stop doing that. And so we went downstairs, we closed it up, and what followed after that freaked me out. So we heard some voices that night, nothing crazy, honestly. It wasn't like the super dramatic thing. But for years, I started hearing voices. I started seeing some things like people calling out my name in the middle of the night. I saw something in my closet, just like random things here and there. I vividly remember when I was younger, this was middle school now. I don't remember the exact time, but my siblings were, young, and we were home alone. My parents were traveling that day. And so they were coming back home. We were alone. Our babysitter had left, and we all, for some reason, looked down to the right. And so that's where our hallway was. And we had a really long extended hallway. And then our parents' doorway was facing where that hallway was. And so we all look over at the same time. It was the weirdest thing. And we see this man, like this really, really tall man standing there. And all of us say nothing. And we see this man turn and walk down the hallway. And so I look at them and I'm like, did you see that? And they're like, yeah. And I don't know what made us do this, but we went throughout the house and started trying to find if there was a man in the house. And if you've seen any horror movies, it's definitely not what you're supposed to do. Like, don't do that. But for some reason, that was, the mindset at the time. And we searched everywhere. Nothing was there, So there was no man. And we start moving on knowing that, we had just seen some random dude in our house and he disappeared. And so for years after that, nothing crazy really happened. Again, sometimes I'd hear somebody walking in the house when I was home alone or like in the middle of the night, but I just ignored it, tried not to give it any mind. But this is where the main event happens. So my brother passed away when I was in high school, and he lived in Tennessee with, my other family. My parents are, not together. So that side of the family, told me the news, and I went out and, flew out for the funeral. And so the day after the funeral, when I was flying home, my stepmom had lost her keys. And I went into her bathroom. She sets things in weird places. So she told me to look in her bathroom, look in her closet just to see if she dropped it, try to find, where the keys are so we can leave and go to breakfast together before I have to get on the plane. And I don't know what it was, but I felt such a difference in the air. Like the atmosphere went cold. I can't describe it. But if you've experienced something like this, it's a very eerie feeling. I felt like I was isolated, even though there were 3 other people in the house, but I was alone in that room. And all of a sudden I felt like metaphorically cornered in the closet, and I heard my name being called with my brother's voice. And it's like time stopped. I knew it wasn't him because I thought that if it really was him, I wouldn't be freaked out. I wouldn't be feeling such a dark, gross feeling. Mind you, I'm already emotional because, I loved my brother and he had just passed away. And so hearing his voice was like weird and it was emotional for me. And I ran out of that room because I felt like whatever was talking to me was not him and it wasn't safe. So I ran out, and my stepmom had been calling for me for 10 minutes and I didn't hear her. So literally, it's like time had stopped. So I told them about this at breakfast and they're like, "Oh, I wish he would talk to me." And I'm like, "But it wasn't him. Like, this is the weird thing. It wasn't him." Right? And so I go home, months go by, nothing happens. I'm grieving my brother, I'm sad. And I talk to him sometimes, at that point. I still do, but at this, during this story, I was talking to him sometimes, and whatever it was that talked to me at my stepmom's house followed me to my house in Minnesota. So I was in Tennessee. That's where the first event happened. I'm back in Minnesota at my mom's house where, the Ouija board thing had happened. We're keeping that in mind. So I go to bed one night. I'm the only one that lives upstairs, right? And so that's where the front door is. My bedroom at the time was right next to the front door. And so we had a staircase going downstairs, and that's where my parents and my siblings were. My mom would stay upstairs in the kitchen, dining room area until, sometimes later in the night, just getting projects done. She's a very crafty person. So I went to bed knowing that she was, kind of within the vicinity. I felt safe. And what I did was I always closed the doors and closed the blinds before I went to bed because, I had experienced some things. I was a little freaked out. And I had already some nights experienced sleep paralysis. And, I was already kind of on edge about that. So close all the blinds, close the doors. And I had my radio on and I start, kind of dozing off, and my radio sounds slower and distorted all of a sudden. And I'm like, something's about to happen. And it did. So I felt like I heard the doors opening, but I was like, no, I'm going crazy. There's nobody else that would be, but it was both doors, my closet door and my door to my bathroom that I heard opening. And I'm like, there's not two people in my room. There's no way. And I didn't even hear my room door open, the main door. And so I can't get up. It's like I am, I'm in sleep paralysis. I can't do anything. I can't talk. I can't open my eyes. I can't move. And all of a sudden I feel myself getting up and I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't me. And so I feel myself get out of bed, but I don't feel like I'm in control of my own body. And I feel myself reach my hand out for my door. And I feel the doorknob. I start, opening my door. And all of a sudden I hear my brother's voice come from my bathroom and him saying, "Maddie, I need to talk to you." And I don't know how, but somehow, some way I was able to talk in that moment. And I'm like, no, get out. I know this isn't you. I don't want to hear it. And I don't know what it was, but it was like, okay, I'll leave. Okay, you'll leave? Okay. But here I am, kind of traumatized because, it's my brother's voice again. And I'm still grieving. This is only a couple months after he passed. And so I'm like, well, what if it was my brother? And I carried on that guilt for so long thinking well, what if it was him? But it was that creepy feeling again. And I'm like, you know what? If this is really my brother, there is no way that he would do this to me, that he would freak me out, that he would try to do all this stuff. There's just no way. I feel like he would come and try to peacefully talk to me and have a conversation. But, that's a whole other conversation. And so I opened my eyes, after I muster enough courage, I open my eyes and all my doors are open, all of them. And nobody was upstairs. My mom is already fast asleep at this point. It was midnight. And I know this story sounds crazy, But this really happened, and it still freaks me out to this day, and I don't know.
Honey, can we talk about those two orbs that I saw at the beginning of this video? Honey, did you see those two orbs? That was not dust. This dust, you see the dust right now. I see the dust in my face right now. That was not dust. I seen those two orbs and then I ain't see them ever again. I ain't see nothing ever again. Did you see that? I saw that. Did you notice that after she said she was listening to her radio and her radio slowed down, all of a suddenly the sound in her lips were not syncing? All this, did y'all see this? I'm not alone, you guys. Y'all are seeing what I'm seeing. No. What the crap, honey? The fact that you see this man and y'all was real calm about it as kids. Y'all was real calm about seeing this man. Y'all all saw it and y'all all went looking. Y'all brave. Y'all brave. Because I didn't hear no we went looking with a weapon. I didn't hear we called our parents and then we went looking. I didn't hear any of that. I just heard we went looking. Wow. that's a different level. I'm not on that level. I'm on that fight level. Not let's find out. Not on that level. So that happened. And then the Ouija board. Y'all already know how I feel about that. We ain't playing with no boards. Not even Candyland. We ain't even playing no more. We ain't playing no more. So yeah, the fact that that happened, and then you're at your stepmom's house, or I guess your dad's house, and that happened, you would have known that that was your brother. What you felt was not what you was supposed to be feeling. If that was your brother, that was not the energy. You know your brother's energy. It would have been soft, light, like loving. You would have felt that. It would have felt familiar. That was creepy. You did the right thing. Run. You needed to pray and detach whatever that was from you, because it didn't follow you. And girl, sleep paralysis is scary by itself. You're saying that you were moving and it wasn't you? Who was doing it? Who was moving you? Who then took over, bruh? Like, let's just be serious right now. Let's talk about it. Who then took over your body, honey, and started making you move and open doors? And who, that spirit that you felt, that energy that you felt at your step parents' house, and I'm glad you identified it. I'm glad you understood that, oh no, this is not my brother. You are not my brother. You needs to go. Like, you are not welcome. I'm glad you said that, because honey, what? Wilding the freak out. I would have woke up everybody in the house. Everybody had to be up now. Everyone. Cause not by myself. All your doors open, bro? Nope, stop it. Cause that was not cool. Girl, we gonna keep it going. Keep it going.
Okay, so I got a lot of requests for this video, so this is going to be my S. Walker story time. So this story takes place in the summertime of 2008. And at the time I was at my boyfriend's house, and his nephew was, there with us, and he needed to get home. So it was like 1:30, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. We were driving him home, which he didn't live far, but he lived off on the reservation, and the road's completely unpaved in that area, and there's no street lights. So it's just complete pitch dark outside. And at the time, my boyfriend, he had this very annoying habit of blasting his music as loud as humanly possible every time we got into the car. So it's like 1:30 in the morning, and he has a sound system in his car, so the car is like shaking and rattling while we're going down this silent road. So in the distance, you can see the single lane bridge that's up ahead, and we're kind of approaching it pretty quickly until something flies across the road. And I say flies because it moved so quickly, so fast, that all you saw was like a black blur across the street. And immediately we turn off the music and we're all just completely silent. So we proceed toward the bridge, and then the smell comes. And if you're familiar with the smell of like decay or like dead animal, that's the exact smell that came in through the windows. So we end up rolling up the windows because the smell is so strong and bad that even after we rolled up the windows, the smell was still there, and it was for a little bit. So we proceed and get toward the area where his nephew lived, and like I said, there's no street lights or anything, so it's still pitch pitch dark, pitch black. And, you know, there's a few houses sprinkled here and there, a few trailer houses, a couple of hogans, and he lives toward the end of this area, which leads to a dead end. And, you know, nobody had their generators on at this point because it's like 1:30 in the morning, everybody's asleep. So when we get to his house, it's completely black. So he books it the fuck out of the car once we get to his house. And I really don't blame him, because if I had that choice, I'd probably do the same thing. So he's out, we see him get in the house, we turn around and head back the same way that we came in. And we get to the point where the bridge was, and, you know, we're crossing the bridge, and right after, I just happened to look outside at the window, and at this point, I'm looking out the window, and I see a pair of red eyes staring from the brush. And I say red, I mean red, like red. And I don't know if they were like actually glowing, but it could have been my imagination that they were glowing, but that's what it seemed like to me. And I was so scared that I just didn't say anything, and I just looked forward and didn't look out the window again. And, you know, we get back to my boyfriend's house, and we don't acknowledge it. We don't really talk about it. And I ended up bringing it up later on, and he just did not want to talk about it. You know, immediately it was like, I know what I saw. I don't want to talk about it. We don't need to go, like, we don't need to say anything. I'm like, okay. Completely respect that, because a lot of times it's like, you know, same vein as the Appalachian folklore, where if you see something, no, you didn't. If you hear something, no, you didn't. Not a lot of Native Americans talk about S-walkers, mainly because you do speak about them. You can attract them to you. And especially to someone who's not a Native American, you especially don't speak to them about these type of things, because it can really bring them to you, and it's just not a good situation. It can bring a lot of bad luck. Like, a lot of times if a Native American person does see an S-walker and looks at them in the eyes, or they look at them in the eyes, they can get sick afterward, like physically sick. So it's not really talked about too often, except with like the younger kids, because, you know, a lot of them either they don't believe it or they just think it's like a joke, but it's not. So we didn't really discuss it, and I only told the story maybe like to a couple of people in my family, but other than that, I really don't talk about them, mainly because I just don't want to attract anything to me, even though I don't live in New Mexico anymore. Don't live anywhere near it, but you never know what you might attract if you say it out loud. So trying to be as respectful as possible and not acknowledge the actual name. But that's my S-walker story time, and I have a couple of other stories to tell if anyone else is interested. Just let me know.
Shout out to whoever told me, who commented, was like, don't say it, don't say it. I didn't know. But we know now. We know now. So yeah, friend, that was scary. That little boy was just like, I'm out of here. I've seen some things in my young life, and I'm not trying to find out. Like, nope. But friend, yeah, that was scary. That was scary. I don't blame him. He was like, nope, I ain't see nothing. What? Girl, what? We didn't see anything. We didn't see nothing. So yeah, I don't blame him. Thank you for sharing, friend. Thank you, because you know you don't know these things. You gotta find out. We need to, communicate to save another person, save each other. Let's look out for each other. We gotta tell what we know, so we can help each other out. I appreciate you, friend. I appreciate you.
Are there skinwalkers in Iowa? Because I think I may have encountered one Wednesday night. At about 10 p.m., I got home from Bible study to my rural Iowa acreage. I have about 7 acres that are largely timber, bordered by a creek. And I live on a really steep driveway, a really long, really steep driveway. So I get home and there is a deer carcass in my driveway. Not unusual. In fact, I've known that there was a deer carcass somewhere close because I kept finding parts of it that my dogs would drag up. But I finally saw the majority of its body, and I was like, I have got to move this before I let my bulldogs out, because otherwise they're not going to go to the bathroom for bedtime. They are just going to mess with this deer carcass. So I go about the business of moving this deer carcass, and it's nighttime, so I'm really only interested in getting it out of their sight. So I'm moving it down my steep driveway and off to the side. So I start to move it, and to my right, I hear what sounds like footfall. And it sounded like person footfall to me, but I don't really know. I just know it was enough to startle me and make me turn to the direction that I heard it, and my Mastiff to take off running toward the field. He is at a full gallop. It takes about a minute for him to get back to me, and when he does, the two of us start dragging the deer. Well, I'm dragging the deer. He's following me down the driveway. I get it about a quarter of the way down, and I leave it there. I turn around and head back up, let the bulldogs out. Everything's going as expected until they find the scent of this carcass, and then they're following the scent of the carcass down to where it's at. So I'm hooping and hollering, trying to get their attention to have them come back to me. I'm screaming, I'm making coyote noises, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pretend like I'm in danger and see if they will come back to me. So I start going, ah, ah. And I kid you not, from the bottom of my driveway, repeated back to me in the exact same tone, is ah, ah. And I would think it was just me, but my kids were in the door with the door open watching me because they thought it was funny when I was making like the coyote noises and stuff. And they go, what was that? I said, it was a coyote or a fox.
You don't ask questions that you don't want to find out the answer, children. We don't ask questions because why you want? No! The fact that she said that she done took this unalive deer and moved it out of her driveway lets me know you country. Did we not just say? Somebody go tell her. Go tell her she's not supposed to say that word, you guys. Go follow these creators and her in particular and message her like, honey, sweetie, I understand. We Bible pushers. I know you don't know, but let me inform you, you do not say this, especially with all this land you got and all this activity you got on your land. Bruh, somebody tell her. Somebody go tell her. Fred, you moved this deer. Moved the deer. Saw something in the distance. Would she say that came running back to her? I'm not that country. I'm country, but not that country to know what the freak she was talking about. Something came back. It was startled. It was just like, I'm going to stay close. And we're going to go back and act like nothing happened. No, we need to tell somebody. I know we said we don't tell nobody, but when it's happening, we need to let somebody know what's going on so we can be safe talking about, oh no, it didn't mock you. It didn't mimic your voice, honey. You know, you hear that all the time that they capture somebody, a woman usually, in distress and mock and relay it back to get people to, to come and see what's going on, to help. Honey, no. Honey, no. Stay safe. Stay safe after the kids. They was like, this ain't funny no more, Bobby. This is not funny. What was that? I heard you down there. What? That wasn't your echo. What is that? No, friend. Be safe in these trees. Be safe in the trees. Let these people know we need to warn everybody. They ain't here. They ain't watching this video. Bring them to the videos, honey, so we can let them know. We can let them know. And you know what? Let them know to subscribe.